In a recent interview with the Guitar Tales podcast, Ace Frehley gave some additional details on why he originally left Kiss. Some of the reasons that he gave are quite familiar to Kiss fans, but I think we can gain a little bit of actual insight into his thinking and into the band dynamics. So before I play the clip for you, I want to tell you basically what he said, which is the same old story that once money and fame arrived in large quantities, the band started to drift apart. They all had their own limos, they had their own security, they had their own hotel rooms, whereas in the early days, they were much closer like a band of brothers. And let's listen to Ace talk about this a little bit, and then I'll comment on what he says.
We did all sorts of jobs before, we started making the big bucks. In the early days, me and Gene used to room together in a Holiday Inn. And then after a live hit, we each had our own suites. And that's when the band started, everybody was going in their own direction.
Right.
Yeah. And it was kind of the beginning of the end. I saw it happening. And plus with the success of my solo record, I realized I was a lot more creative away from Paul, Gene, and Peter than I was around them.
Okay, so no real surprise there about the money and fame causing fractures in the band. And no real surprise also in there about Ace saying that he felt creatively constrained with Kiss. But I think there's a little bit of a surprise in there that he said that the success of his 1978 solo album showed him that he could be more creative outside of the confines of Kiss than he was within the band. Now, here's my thoughts on this. One is that he didn't say, well, hey, I wasn't getting enough of the money. Gene and Paul were taking the lion's share of the money and the songwriting royalties, and that didn't seem fair to me. He also didn't say, well, look, they didn't offer me any creative input on the direction of Kiss, on the direction of the band. He also didn't say, look, the makeup thing was getting old and tired, and I think it was time to move on. What he actually said was, I was more creative away from them than I was with them. Now, this certainly would have appeared to have been true at the time of the solo albums, as Ace's 78 solo album, in my opinion, is the pinnacle of his songwriting and the pinnacle, if not of his playing, of his studio playing for sure. And although I still think that he made good music after that, and he definitely made great music with Kiss before that, the 78 Soul album would have been demonstration enough for him to believe, look, I'm soaring over here. I really don't need to be part of Kiss anymore. So I think that he is trying to emphasize that it was a creative decision, but that doesn't overshadow the very real fact that it probably was a financial decision and a decision about control, creative control and direction of how and when things get done. Because Kiss was very much a Gene and Paul run entity for the time that Ace and Peter were both in the band. So I think that while there's no great surprises in what he said in this interview, it's still interesting to hear that he places the reason for his departure on creativity rather than money or ego, even though we all know those also played a role. So this is what I think, but what really matters is what you think. If you have an idea about this or any other topic connected to classic or contemporary music, please drop it in the section below, and remember to like and subscribe. Thanks a lot.